I saw. I was like,
hello everyone. This is Center Federation here, and today we're gonna be doing this alt-right hangout. Unfortunately, Arini couldn't make it to this one, but I promise he will either be here next week or if we're lucky enough, maybe tomorrow.
yeah.
And in a couple minutes, Danilo, the Brazilian dude, our favorite Brazilian guy, is gonna be joining it in anytime soon.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
All right, so earlier I just wanted to talk about Antifa.
Oh, those fucking wit twats.
Yeah, see, the thing is, Antifa, they had this poster I saw the other day that said, it's, I forgot what it's, oh yeah, it says, end racism and sexism, kill all white males.
Did it really say that, or are you just being retarded?
No, there was a huge poster that said that.
Fuck them. They're pieces of human shit.
So technically, Antifa is not a fascist fighting group. It's a freaking anti-white hate group.
Hey, why did you guys leave the last hangout?
Because we're doing this alt-right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems legit, you clown. I'm kidding.
Mm-hmm.
No names mentioned here. If any guy who said that, because I don't want to start shit. Or Ethan told me to really don't, so I'm like, okay.
Yeah, don't really mention any of those dumbasses' names.
Dumbass, whatever.
Danilo, what do you think of Antifa?
Yeah, it's like fighting a phantom, you know. Like they create this. If you say only the word Antifa, anti-fascism, it seems something like, well, they are fighting fascism, so okay. But if you look what they consider to be fascist, that's where the problem lives, because they don't even know what is fascism. Fascism, it's everything they disagree. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it from the fascist view. They have no understanding of fascist doctrine at all. They just go and call everything fascist because they don't like it.
Yeah, it is actually a left-wing squad or something.
It's just a hate group, basically.
Yeah.
A big hate mob that just goes, I don't approve of this. This is fascist. This is racist. Kill the guy. Kill him because he's a fascist.
Everything I don't agree, it's a Hitler.
Oh yeah, if you guys saw that, everyone I don't like is Hitler.
Yeah.
Or Mussolini or whatever. And the funny is they don't even know. They're more of like they don't even know. They just call everything fascist. Yet even if it isn't fascist, like they say National Socialists are fascists, which I'm like they're separate ideologies. They're not one and the same.
Here's Antifa logic. All right, so we have National Socialism, they call that fascist. They call Francoism, Phalangism, fascist.
Well, I think it actually is. Most people would count it as fascism.
But the thing is, they call Mussolini's fascism Italian Nazis.
Oh, I saw that! Which I'm like, then what the fuck is it? You idiot.
This press is stupid.
That meme I saw that meme. That meme's priceless.
Yeah.
Yeah. To point what happened today on my university, just to show how these people are stupid. They made a general assembly to define the university's local position on impeachment of our President Dilma, and their argument was there's a lot of corrupt people there are not being persecuted, so it will be hypocritical to support the impeachment. So no.
Yeah.
It's.
Oh yeah, and also I would also like to talk about ethnic nationalism.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is though, no, there's nothing wrong with ethnic nationalism, because here's the thing. Where you come from, like your heritage is pretty much who you are.
See,
And
yeah,
ethnic masochism is disgusting because you're literally being a cuck and a degenerate, hating yourself and shaming yourself just for just for the sake of what?
yeah.
Tolerance and love.
There's
Full
a
of fucking shit.
two kinds of nationalism, I think.
Yeah, there are two
For,
types of nationalism.
yeah, because you can have romantic nationalism, which I personally don't like, because it's an inversion of reality. You just put your ethnic background like if it was God, and you worship it. You don't, you don't conceive yourself as an individual, but as a part of this group. I think this is not a good thing itself. It can lead to bad things, and it's based on these views that leftists are made. Also, like these identity policies of feminism, gayism, or anything. But of course, having a kind of love of who you are, who your base, who are your background, this is very, very important um, to keep your culture, to maintain your culture, which is different from our romantic nationalism. I think these two things must be distinguished.
Exactly.
Yes, indeed.
What else? Oh yeah. Yeah. Like so. Back about ethnic masochism. What do you guys think?
Ugh. Even though I'm
Sorry,
mixed race, I'm just like,
masochism.
define
Yeah.
it.
Hey, Kater.
I've returned
What's
from
up,
the
kid?
Well, Keita.
depths of my lair. I
Oh,
couldn't sleep, so then I seen
ethnic,
that you
if
you guys
ethnic,
are still going, man. You got
whatever ism you have, and if it involves like being like total degenerate and cuckold, that's disgusting, and it should just burn in hell for all I care.
Wait, who could burn in hell?
What was that, Ethan? You called it? Who was it? Ethno?
Ethno-nationalism?
No, not ethno-nationalism. It was some other one.
Yeah, ethnic masochism.
Ethnic masochism. I'm gonna look at it.
I don't even know what is this. Maybe I misheard.
Yeah, it's ethnomasochism is the act of taking pleasure in contemplating the humiliation, subordination, or annihilation of one's own ethnicity or race.
Oh, so what
That's
Noam Chomsky
Oh,
does.
yeah,
yeah. I'm gonna
yeah.
say yeah. He does it with the Jews. It's like that can burn in hell for all I care.
Cultural suicide or self-destruction.
Yeah,
Those kind of tendencies usually seem to be born from either just outright devious intentions, or more generally, it's like an inborn feeling of guilt. You know, like white guilt or colonialism or Nazi with the Germans.
yeah. Hey, Kater, you might want to fix your mic.
Yeah, your mic's like.
There's something wrong with it?
Yeah.
Can you hear me
Sounds like
now?
Porky Pig, for heck's sakes, man.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Could you hear me
Yeah.
now?
Much better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my cord wasn't entirely in.
Oh, that explains it. Who could be behind this?
How yeah, just put it in echoes. But
Yeah, I wish I knew how to do that. I would totally do that. I'd go, who could be behind this?
how do you feel about having that many people like what Vlad did in the chat? Because I kind of felt like I should have dropped out earlier on, just so that the conversation could have been more productive. Like, it was just way too chaotic.
The problem is
It's just that it's a lot of people, so
yeah, and one Nero, it literally is an attention whore.
It seems that a little
Sorry to
bit.
bring that up, but one of the guys was attention whoring.
I
I know this guy. I saw I even brought it up, but he
that's fine.
said he's not gonna stop being mature, so I'm just gonna say he's an attention whore. It's true. Hey, shut up, guys! I'm talking.
Yeah, there needs to be more of like a, when somebody says, "Hey, if I address," and then the other person goes, "Okay, you can address it," instead of, just completely steamrolling over what you're saying. Because there was a bunch of points where I wanted to, just talk up and say, "Yeah, hold on, wait a second." But then, I didn't want to be rude, because I didn't really know Vlad, and so I didn't want to rustle anybody's jimmies.
Oh, okay. It's easier to talk when it's just like the three or four of us, or whatever, how
Yeah,
many number of
especially
people.
with you guys, you're pretty laid back and fairly mellow.
Yeah, it's this whole with with two of the people. I'm not gonna say names, but when they're like, "Hey, let me finish" or whatever, I'm literally about to scream and
Yeah,
tell
I
them,
wonder who that
"Shut your
was.
fat
I'm not gonna say
mouth!"
names.
No, I don't want to bring people up because I don't want to cause more shit than there already is between me and
Yeah,
the
sure.
person who cannot be named.
Voldemort. Actually, there was an interesting video I seen recently by a guy named Argent. He also writes under the pseudonym Argent Templar at the same site I write for, West Coast Reactionaries. And he did a sort of like character analysis of Voldemort, about how he was essentially supposed to be the reflection of the right in like the political right in the UK and America. And it was pretty interesting. He's really good at film reviews and artistic dissections.
Yeah.
I got a drop like that's good for like most lefties. Most of these people, like a lot of these commies, they're like,
He's like, Allah, Akbar! Yeah, go guys, go! While he's sitting there fucking chewing on his fucking Arby's mega meat fucking sandwich, sucking on his long Pepsi, sitting in his black pajamas, beating his dick off.
that's what these freaking leftists are like. Allah Akbar!
Hey, do you guys think we could discuss Israel?
Sure.
Of course.
All right, so I know Delta and Danilo's views on it, but I'm curious to wonder what Cater and Alan's views on it are.
Well, I'm sure you're all sick of hearing me talk in my dulcet tones, so why don't we let Alan speak first on this?
I think that Israel, I think it has a right to exist, but I don't agree with the way it's being nasty towards Palestinians and the treatment of them. So, yeah, that's just sort of my very basic view of it.
Oh, more of like a two-state solution, more of a liberal.
Yeah,
I'd say average liberal.
I guess you could say that.
I'd say they have every right to protect their own nation from terrorist attacks done by these anti-Semitic pieces of shit called Hamas.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, there's like two primary questions to that and that people usually bring up in regards to Israel, and that's one: should it have been placed there? Like that was the fulfillment of their prophecy, and so they had to place them there. No, they shouldn't have placed them next to Palestine. They knew they knew the shit was going to hit the fan. It was going to be terrible. There's going to be bloodshed. It was chaos. They did it anyways just to please them, and that's unfortunate.
We have to look at the history of the Jewish people into account, like I'd say from like a good 1300 BC or BCE, but I want to put it as all the way up until the Roman-Jewish wars, and that was exactly where they were located. But they had a lot more territory and influxed over centuries of either being occupied by the Assyrians or the Babylonians. They have a lot of history, so I'd understand kind of like this is where a lot of our ancestors were, so we want to go back. I don't know, but the Arabs with their kind of thing, the minute they conquer something, it doesn't matter if the people take it back, they will claim it, like these Muslims, regardless. And they fought against the Christians, but they literally didn't care about the land. It was actually just, even if there was just Palestine with no Israel, that country would be ripped apart by war like Yemen or any other country in that region due to all the instability. And no one would give a fuck. But since the Jews are there, everyone throws a temper tantrum, and it's a big problem.
Yeah, and here's the thing: I don't have a blind support for Israel. I'm critical on some things that they do as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way.
Yeah, like Israel, I've heard that they've also had some funding with the Syrian rebels who are ISIS members. Of
or they have some degeneracy over there. I don't agree with, and
they've also given healthcare for ISIS fighters and stuff like that. So I don't have blind support for them because I think that they should stop doing what they're doing because
I don't have
what they're doing is also suicidal.
I don't do this John Hagee, we must support Israel 100%, blindly. It's no. I believe as a Christian there's a lot of very wicked things over there, like homosexual, you could say sexual degeneracy and all this other nasty stuff that goes on like in Tel Aviv and cities like that with all the pride parades and crap. And
There's a lot of fundraising fraud that goes on in Israel, which is a pretty niche thing to bring up, but there's that too. One of the things I'm sick of hearing is the going back on or off of what you said, Delta, was how everybody in the political establishment, you have to be behind Israel or you can't get elected. They're like, oh, you're against Israel, and then it'll be a big news story for no reason.
I don't believe they should be destroyed or anything, because I'm like, no, of course, that would lead to literally another Holocaust, knowing what the Arabs' motives are, like with Hamas and all the leftists support them, which is very interesting, is the fact that they're anti-Semites and Holocaust deniers, yet they still get support from the left very heavily, because they want to destroy Israel, therefore they're our greatest ally, and we should support them no matter what they do.
Yeah, and here's the thing, so a lot of times these so-called anti-Zionists also like to argue that that it belongs to the Palestinians, but the thing is, if you look at the land, it originally belonged to the Jews. That's where Judea was at. So
yeah,
it's
most of Jewish civilization was born in that territory. If they lived in exile, you could go into biblical stuff, and some people like Mason, like that's where all the replacement theology of the church has replaced the physical nation of Israel, and some try to put a pro-Palestine argument. I'm like, no. Even like in actual, like from my own faith, all like you say Christianity, a lot of prophecy, it talks about physical land, which refers to that physical land in Israel. So it's about physical land and the Jewish people. We have to go, oh, Jewish supremacy, and many people like a communist, a couple of them, they get mad when they hear about this chosen. They get so butthurt because it. And I'm like, well, the reason why is because I'll say it from my own views. God made a covenant with that people. He didn't make it with the rest of you could say the heathen peoples. He didn't make it with like Germans or anything. It's specifically to that group, and that's his inheritance. You can't, there's nothing you can do about it. So stop crying about it and just
yeah,
go
and
on.
then they also like to argue that like most of the people who live in Israel are not even from Judea. They're just Ashkenazis.
They're all settlers, and it's like a lot of Israelis are now born there. They might be several generations from when their grandparents or ever came over from like the mainland Europe because of the Holocaust.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're born there now, so you can't. So kicking them out would cause a huge displacement. It would make the refugee crisis even worse than it already is.
Yeah,
And another Holocaust.
Yeah, what I say on that is just like we should defend them because they're our ally. Until they stop being our ally, until we stop having a mutual agreement between our two nations, then yeah, we should defend them and support them. But ideally, I think I would just allow the Palestinians and the Israelis to work that out, or not on their own. I wouldn't interfere.
It's not really going to happen. The Muslims are so determined to destroy them that it's the Islamists have their vendetta. We have to destroy the Jews and kick them out and slaughter them all and exterminate them.
Netanyahu and them have tried to make peace with the Palestinians.
I've heard them like in speeches. They say we will exterminate you, and they will do anything it takes, even if they get money to build their cities up. They'll just use it to build weapons and to kill people because they don't care. They want the Jews dead.
And that's
they don't give a fuck.
That's what's scary about it.
They will not stop, which means that if they have to be annihilated, then I say, so be it. If it has to be done, then. But it doesn't mean kill innocents. If you have to destroy Hamas, so be it. Wipe them off the map.
What do you think about that sentiment, Alan?
I have mixed views on it, but I do agree that there is a lot of anti-Semitism. That Islam is quite strongly anti-Semitic, and that to not give Jews or Israelis the right to exist or to have their own nation, I think is not fair at all, and that definitely, don't like that.
Communists do that. Or SJW, self-determination for all people except for whites and Jews.
Yeah.
It's funny, like they attack white people, but they don't even realize that they're also attacking the self-determination of the Jewish people as well, and they cover it up. Oh, we're not anti-Semitic, we're just anti-Zionist. Yeah, you're attacking their self-determination.
I was talking to Delta about this like earlier in a private chat. I had told Delta that like every time you confront a communist, I'm not gonna say their names though, but let's just say these people, whenever you catch them in their anti-Semitism, they'll just say, "I'm not anti-Semitic, I'm just anti-Zionist."
Whoa, Senator, who do you mean these people? Now, who you talking about?
Like left, like SJWs, communists, whatever you have it.
Oh, I meant to ask, if you don't mind saying, and if you do, I completely understand. I was just curious, how old you were, Center. You look really, really young, like when I
Yeah,
see
I'm
you.
16.
Really?
He's the baby of our batch.
Wow. I just assumed you were older when I first started watching your videos, because you don't really. Um, well, frankly, you're just much smarter than
Who is the
most
oldest? Is it
16-year-olds
Al
that
or
I
is
know.
it Cater?
What's that?
Who's the oldest? Is it you? Is it Cater, Al, or
What?
I mean, who's the oldest of the group?
Oh,
I
I don't
still
know.
can't say
How
names
old are you?
properly.
I think I might be the
Danilo
chieftain
or
here.
I'm not good with Portuguese names. I'm like
It's
dirt.
Danilo. How old
Yeah,
are you?
What?
How old are you again? You're 24?
Me, I'm 23.
23, 19. Then
You guys?
I said 19 before.
Oh yeah.
19.
Yeah, Alan, how old are you?
I'm 18.
Oh, really?
Oh, so he's like
You
the
don't sound
second
young either.
youngest.
Everybody here
I'm like
sounds.
third. Then third.
Here
19,
you
something
the
older.
oldest.
Yeah, I'm the oldest one here, and
Yeah.
I sound probably the youngest. I
Yeah,
think.
third oldest and probably third youngest of the batch.
I was just curious. That's interesting. Yeah, which shows you how demographically young this whole, I guess you could call it
Just
a movement.
our whole little thing is.
Yeah, it's interesting. Because I
Yeah.
keep talking to people and I keep thinking that they're like, they're 26, 27, and I'm like, hey, by the way, how old are you? And they'll be like, oh, I'm 18, I'm 17, and
Shows how young this movement is.
yeah, I'm just consistently surprised by
See,
how.
I don't despise youth. I've seen some people, they despise youth, and it's like, you're dumb and uneducated in her. And I'm like,
Well, that's just ageism.
that's bullshit, dude. It's total ageism. I think I've seen that with like some people I watch when it comes to gaming stuff. They tend to be a bit ageist. Like they won't, like it's mostly people that don't like want 12-year-olds around or anything. And it's like, whoa, you just kind of want people. I understand, like you want an adult audience. You don't want a bunch of children necessarily being a bunch of little idiots on here. I can get that, but don't be like super ageist and don't be a prick with that kind of shit.
Yeah, that works both ways too. Are you gonna say something, Danilo?
No.
Oh.
Go on.
I was just gonna say that at least where I live and where I have lived in America, very few young people look up to their elders at all, or ever seek their elders for counsel. And if there's some way to get them to do it, I think it'd be really beneficial to do so, even if they're not smarter than you. They just have more inherent wisdom. They have more life experience, and I think it's really valuable in a mentoring process.
Mm.
I think I know why sort of young people today maybe don't want to listen to their parents or their grandparents, because a lot of young people today think, oh, my parents, my grandparents, they're just all homophobic, transphobic, racist, and I'll just ignore
so
them.
I'm gonna do what I want and my sexual freedom to do what the fuck I want.
Yeah, you're probably right about that, Alan. I've never really actually thought much about why that is.
Well,
but
my
yeah,
grandparents
probably.
weren't racist because my grandparents weren't racist. Because then they probably would have got mad when my mom married my dad, who was a black man. So they would have been like enraged. So they're not
Well,
racist. I can tell you.
Well,
Yeah,
my
go ahead.
grandfather on my dad's side was definitely racist. He was a big he was a supporter of Nazi Germany. He hated Jews, and he was all out. So yeah.
Oh, he was a full-out racist. Holy shit.
Yeah, 100%. Although he lived in I live in Auckland, New Zealand, but he lived in an area where there's quite a high population of the indigenous people in New Zealand of Maoris. Not sure why he did that if he hates brown people, but whatever.
Well, Delta's been outfashed.
Well, no one in my family is really fashy. I'd say they're somewhat anti-fashy and like anti-communist and things like that. Because of evil authoritarianism, and my mom's like, she's kind of terrified the fact that I've come to third positionism. No kidding you, she doesn't like it at all. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not changing my mind as the time right now. To her, hopefully shit wears off. I'm like, what if it doesn't?
Hey guys, this is gonna be a random question, like totally off topic. But when do you guys feel would it be necessary to start a civil war?
What a question.
Oh,
What a
that's
question.
an interesting one.
I'll think on that. I'll let the rest of you go.
I have no idea, to be honest.
Well, I don't know. I mean, what, like a civil war in the United States, or?
Yeah, those are American
Well,
Civil War.
anywhere.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's many tensions. I mean, well, there are tensions, of course, but nothing to warrant a civil war.
Yeah, that's a little too broad. I guess you'd have to say where. Like, if you mean the United States, that's kind of all I can speak to. I guess I could speak to
All right,
Europe.
the United States then.
Okay.
Yeah,
United
like possibly the South seceding again or something like that.
Yeah, it'd
South-Alliance
have to be some kind of state secession or.
For me, it's burning the Constitution.
If they did that, I probably would more likely be like, okay, this is an opportunity for a nationalist movement to try to rebuild the nation. In that case, if we successfully take over, we will rebuild it. If we still have if we have like a pocket constitution, we'll look at if they don't. Let's just say it's somehow it's like they're attempting to burn it, and when somehow people get a hold of it and hide it somewhere, like people did with like the Liberty Bell or something. Then, like I say, I led a nationalist movement and took it over. I'd look at it and go, okay, how are we gonna? I'd take a lot of stuff out of the original Constitution, but I would still make a new one based off like fascist principles and to know who's in charge.
Well, what do you think, Censor? Because that's I just don't think any of us really know. I think it's.
Yeah, like I said, it's if like the government just starts to like screw us up. Of course, like with economy keeps us unsafe. I mean, it's already slowly been happening, but it hasn't happened as badly as Europe.
Well, yeah, we haven't had the destabilizing forces from mass migration yet.
Yeah, and it really hasn't, because one, we're already a very diverse nation, so we're like, okay, it's different people from different parts of the world. We're like, okay, not too much of a big deal. It's not like Europe, where mainly it's white people, and it's like, what the fuck is this?
It's because Europe already has a national identity.
We really don't have much of a race identity at all, so it's like, okay, no big deal. But if they're trying to keep their language and try to remain like Arabic, and it's like, okay, no, you speak fucking English here. Comprende? And they still want to go Allah Akbar and blow shit up, and it's like, we're kicking you out.
Leftists, this is where they like to call us racist when we talk about like limiting immigration and stuff like that. But like the thing is, kind of like what Vladivostok said, there's nothing racist about like trying to protect, like holding up values principles that hold up like the values of liberty and freedom, and then blindly opening the border towards anyone who's opposed to those values.
Yeah, that's actually when I asked Vladivostok what he thought the greatest threat to our respective countries was. He said, I don't know. And I thought it's clearly, obviously,
it's our national identity, and like I'd say, like for me, it's basically faith the most. Faith, and like we say, like Christianity and other ideals, because I know there's been a huge rise in like degeneracy and extreme secularism to the point like we need to get rid of all. If we get rid of religion, everything will be wonderful. Because these nuts seem to think religion's the problem, and that's not always the case. That's not always the problem.
That's certainly not true.
And I'm going to say it down. I know people like. I'm actually going to mention here. Like the problem is here with him is that Christianity was what built the West, what we know it today. It influenced the West greatly. So to remove it and to try to make everyone atheist and secular would destroy our very identity. It would cause a lot of harm. So it's a bad idea.
I partially agree, but what I think is not true is that everybody needs some sense of divinity. And that's something that religious nationalists tend to be very outspoken about. Like, everybody needs divinity. And it's manifestly not true. I think
I know that. It's not necessarily true, because there's many atheists who are fascists and like third positionists. I do respect them. When you're trying to completely eradicate a major thing that's a major pillar to our civilization, you're going to cause problems. Like no one needs to
like, so I think Alan wants to say something.
Yeah, that's the reason why I'm right, because I love the West.
Well, I do agree that Christianity has played a big part in the building of Western culture and Western values, and I think one reason that is because Christianity is based on the idea that you don't need it's based on ideas of sort of peace, right? Whereas religions like Islam is certainly not, because with Islam you sort of have to fight. You have to do certain things to try and achieve salvation.
Like, in Christianity, when we do fight, it's in defense. That's the only time we will fight. So if we're attacked, we will retaliate against you.
Yeah, and Christianity is like inherent is by its nature. I mean, I guess there have been a few examples otherwise, but by its nature, peaceful. Whereas
It's
Islam certainly can't be said to be like that.
you'll have times where like the Catholics eternally like killed a bunch of people who didn't follow the church. You'll have like a few things like that happened in the Middle Ages, and you'll have things like the Reformation and with the 30 Years' War. You'll have some change. But I'd say it does bring a lot of peace and it can stabilize an area. I don't think it's necessarily negative like a lot of these edgy atheists necessarily do. And I think, and people that's why I think someone like Sargon of Akkad has ignorance. He says secularism did a lot, and it's like, yeah, it did build, but Christianity has more time, so it had a greater impact. And it's a very important element to keep. Weakening it or vanquishing it will cause
Christianity
mass.
and Judaism are like the only religions that actually practice the separation of church and state.
Well, not a lot of Jews. There's a lot of Jews who want theocracy, but it's not going to happen because people are going to be like, no, get the fuck out, and they'll be like, oy vey, anti-Semitism when we do that.
Well, Center, that's not entirely true. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
like not entirely true, but like
You do have like liberal. You have some pretty liberal Jews.
Yeah, my problem with modern day Christianity is it's inherently globalist, right? So it's one message that's true for all people, and it's one morality for all peoples, and it's dismissing hierarchy, and that's where I disagree.
Yeah, you'll get like the Vatican where they kind of preach. Which I kind of you could say I believe that there's one truth, like God has one thing that's basically a perfect word, but it's in different languages. Like for the English-speaking people, it's the King James version of the Bible, and other languages that might be the equivalent to that, because it's all different. It's like what brings a lot of people like me and other many Christians together is through doctrine, or if we're like we understand our love for our nations in the West. It's like they'll bring us together. Like I know a guy who's French. This is of course the web is not like necessarily like best buddies or anything, but like I know him. I can tell he's a Catholic, but I can tell, but he's because of course France is has been a pretty Catholic country in its history. But it's the fact we love the West and our nations and not like our traditions. It's like, I don't really at this point. I could disagree with him on religious stuff, but it wouldn't be like a pagan with like you're a kike worshiper and you need to go back to the Middle East, you Semitic bay of faggot. And we both have problems with those kind of people because like pagan nationalists can be nasty. Not all of them, but there's a lot of them like you kike worshiper because you don't hold to the real roots of Europe. Because pagans just happen to be there longer. So
that all just goes back to the Jew obsession thing.
Yeah, and it gets retarded, and it just gets. I'm like, shut up.
Intensifies.
Like it's my disdain for those kind of people begin to intensify. I know not all pagans do that, but there's plenty of them who do, and I get a disdain for those people for a pretty good reason, actually.
In my experience, all the pagans I've talked to have been great.
Depends. Some of them are pretty nasty. You just gotta be.
Some of them. I think that'd be interesting.
But I have heard of that, like them being a thorn in the side to third position is because they divide everyone up based on who's a Christian and who's a pagan, and it causes fighting like crazy in some areas.
So I wanted to add, before you move on to anything else, hey Alan, did you have any plans to make any more videos for your channel?
Well, not right now, but I mean, I'm not ruling out the possibility. If I want to respond to something, I will. If I feel motivated enough or care enough about something to respond to it, I will. But I don't see myself making regular content at all, like, on a regular basis.
I think one thing I like about, like, as far as YouTube goes, I like how Sargon will do, like, a response to someone like Anita, and he'll get, like, a bunch of people in, and they all watch it. It's kind of, some of those are actually funny.
Yeah, like I said before, I don't really like the whole response video format unless it's to someone who won't speak to you. Or just
something like Social Democrat, like if you need it.
Yeah, somebody like that.
Being a fascist, what do you think of National Bolshevism or National Anarchism?
I think National Anarchism is just terrible, and it's a retarded meme ideology that a bunch of people. I have no idea who came up with it. They must have been on some retarded acid.
It's completely counterintuitive. Like
it's nonsense. It doesn't work. How can you have nationalism and anarchism? You don't believe in a government or you could say a state to support. Like fascism, we have our values with the state, and yet people. I've seen some comments that get mad at me like, "You're just the opposite of an anarchist," and yet literally these people will bow down and say economy is the most important thing and everything else is irrelevant. And it's like you worship economics, that you accuse us of worshiping something. Like, shut your freaking mouth. shut your fucking mouth, because I really don't care right now. I was like, sometimes I'll be like, I'm sorry for language, I'm trying to be polite, but this is like absolute bullshit.
Come on,
Like,
Delta, tell us how you
everything
really
stems-
feel.
Yeah, okay, hold on. What are you gonna say?
Nothing.
They're like, oh, everything stems from economics, and I'm like, stop. You tell us we're worshiping shit. You worship economics like a god, like it's the most important thing, and everything else is irrelevant until this issue's solved. Then you'll move on.
That's the third thing I should have brought up to Love, Life, and Anarchy the first time we were debating over the veracity of libertarianism and anarchism is that anarchist libertarians have an utter obsession with economics. Where,
yeah,
like,
commies
everything...
and libertarians. Like, it's hilarious. I understand the economy is important to a nation. But if you don't have a nation, then where's your economy? I know they could go, oh, commune's here, but you really have no economy if there's no country to really defend.
But I do want to say that I wasn't accusing Love, Life, and Anarchy, if he sees this, of making that distinction.
Yeah, I understand that. I was saying, like, I understand economy is important to a lot of communists, but I'm like, but it's not on the level of extreme importance. Like, it's a pretty important issue that you should look at. There's issues where they think everything stems from economic relations, and all these relations come link back to somehow the economy. In reality, you have like cultural issues which have nothing to do with economics. Religious and social issues are completely irrelevant. They are issues that are tied in with economics, like sometimes with mass immigration. There's an you could say the economic reason for this is welfare state, but it's not somehow. It's all the issues are hooked to economics, and it's the bourgeoisie trying to do this elaborate scheme of conspiracy. And I'm like,
the problem for me comes in when people who propound upon economics in this fashion start moralizing it at every turn. So that you have people like Ayn Rand did this a lot, where she tried to correlate virtue with money, and it doesn't really make any sense, and it just becomes this a self-refuting but self-perpetuating mantra.
Yeah, I know I definitely want to re-upload this sometime on my own channel. Whenever I do it, will probably be like when I get the strikes over. I'm going to have a lot of commies like ass hurt about what I'm saying. Because I never really do stuff on political views. Because I know I get a lot of freaking communists coming on here. I used to be a socialist, of course. A lot of them have come on here. And I know it's going to be really annoying having to deal with them. Usually I just ignore them. If someone like Manuel leave a comment, like, it depends. If the critique's good, I'll look at it. But if it's really bad, I'll just kind of I'll just blow over it, and I just won't care, and I'll be like, okay, ridiculous Marxist claim as usual, move on.
Well, yeah, of course, but that should hold with.
It's not credible at all, then I'm just gonna blow it off. Okay.
What do you guys think of McCarthyism?
He's out of the blue curveball questions. I don't actually have a strong
McCarthyism. I think he had like a good intention, but he went a bit overkill in just calling. Like, he just had these lists of, like, but then, no, he wouldn't show it to people. It was just kind of, like, very secretive. So, I do believe...
But to be honest, I do think that there should be a McCarthyism.
I get, like, if it's needed. I know I've had a couple commies. I was in, like, both of them are, like, Christians. I'm not trying to say names because I know somehow they're watching. And one of them, he's a whole top cringe about your capitalism and imperialism video. But the funny thing is, they were joking around how, like, oh, I'm going to report him into the House of Un-American Activities, and it's like, because you're doing stuff that to you the nation's irrelevant. Borders are just an imagination. We need to unite everyone, and like you have all this unity and like utopia where no borders exist. People they try to imply like a tribal, like just tribalism's evil and bad, but people naturally do it. Hence, communes are a clan. Yet they don't even realize that communes are a clan.
Yeah, exactly. It's still tribalist.
Yeah, it's still a clan, so loyalty to that clan is not bad. Yet they imply it's so terrible and evil and bourgeois
as
construct.
Long as one wishes to organize people, there'll always be some tribal
there'll be a
mentality.
Clan. Yet you people they have a loyalty to their own clan. Yet when they'll bitch about nationalists or patriots and like fascists for doing similar things, and yet they do it themselves. It's like you really need to stop doing this shit.
Danilo, I looked up those two authors you recommended to me. One I was kind of familiar with. What was it? Roger Scruton. I'd read some of his books before, but Olavo, what was it? Olavo di Carvalho, I think is how you pronounce his name.
Yeah. Are you right on chat?
What is that?
Are you right? Wait. It's Olavo di Carvalho.
Carvalho, okay. Yeah, he's kind of crazy.
I was gonna say to continue on my point. Like,
Well,
I'm sorry, I kind of like this, but it's just this pisses me off really bad. And and this is
What
why I've
does?
had a lot of contempt for like for these kind of couple people. They try to say apology, but I don't understand. So like, if you do some kind of hangout on some kind of thing, which says like Facebook, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to deal with it because I'm getting honestly really sick and tired of their communist ramblings about how the good of it, like it's the whole this global kind of thing, and I'm all. Yet you think like these nations are bad, and it's like, oh, this national pride is so terrible. That's how a lot of great things in history have been done. Is through national will and the people of a nation being brought together to overcome. Like the Soviets had to have that kind of patriotism to defeat the Reich. Yet they'll be like, oh, that was bad, and they try to imply somehow it was bad, and I'm like, no, it's not necessarily. I know if it could get bad if it gets way too extreme. I understand to a certain point, but yet you're just all like, oh, it's all bad and it's ridiculous and loving your country is dumb and it's because it's all just a plot of land and who cares? And they really have no sense of nation. And these people, I'm gonna say, they're willing to betray their own country to fulfill their goals. They just don't give a fuck. And that's why I looked at like Marxism and like that's why I never could go into it fully because I looked at it, I'm like I viewed it as heartbreaking. I couldn't do this to fellow Americans and my own people or to my country like this. I'm like I'm not gonna backstab them just to fulfill a certain agenda. I was like fuck this, so I left.
Come on, Delta, tell us how you really feel.
So
No,
I think I'm done. It's like
No, I
but I always said
completely.
it was heartbreaking. I'm like I'm not gonna betray my country or my family or people to fulfill a communist agenda and your utopian bullshit. Face reality.
I think that's part. I think it's a symptom of the decline of a warrior ethos. There's not really a warrior class anymore. And by that I don't just mean military. I mean the mindset to it.
I'd say, would you say we still have that kind of mindset, everyone in this hangout, or? Because I've noticed I have that mindset pretty heavily on a lot of times.
Yeah, you certainly do. I think I do. I'd like to think I do.
I like military stuff a lot of times. I was in actually JROTC for my last 2 years of high school, so I'm like, okay, that probably explains it somewhere.
Yeah.
Very patriotic kind of mindset. I've always been like this. Even when I was a communist, I was pretty patriotic, and a lot of them hated me for it. They're like, you're so bad, and you believe the lies of imperialism, because I wouldn't cuck for Hamas or Islam or Iran, and I said they can go all fuck themselves, and like, and they got all angry, and I always wondered why, and I'm like, because they just don't care about anything. They'd rather fulfill their own agenda, screw people over, screw their entire nation over, the benefit themselves, rather than everyone else.
Yeah, like I don't know why most leftists, even most like white supremacist idiots, like they claim that that Iran is a great ally of ours because they're anti-Israel. But the thing is,
they hate us. They will kill us.
It's death to. They're saying is death to America, death to Israel.
Yeah, well, I mean, most goose-stepping, like white supremacist guys, they have no vision. They're angry, and it's the same thing with what you see from the black supremacist movements, like the Black Panthers, or I wouldn't exactly call them black supremacists, but they have supremacist leanings. Black Lives Matter. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Just
like two sides of the same coin.
It's kind of funny how like even like all these Maoists, the ruralists, that they try to like destabilize America. Even though I was a socialist, I figured I'll fight for my country. I don't even care if I'm going against my own comrades. Like this is my own people and my own nation under attack here. I'm not gonna betray them to fulfill a goal. At this point, I'm like, fuck that. Everything I care about is gonna get destroyed or be washed away. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm not gonna. And they're like, and they get ass hurt, and I'm like, and I start realizing my views don't fit. I have a more patriotic, nationalistic mindset these people despise. So I figured, and I started looking into fashion a little bit more because I know like a person who I'm not going to mention was getting into it because I think he was just trying to like, take a break and he was kind of reading up on other ideologies. So then I was like, okay, let me see this book by Mussolini on the doctrine of fascism. I kind of read it, and I started learning other things about the doctrine a bit. And I'm like, I agree with this. So I decided I'm going to join this movement, and I thought fascism was the last spot I would ever look. Because I always viewed it as racist and hateful to minorities because of the leftist propaganda that's out there, all the conformist horse shit. So then when I came to it, I'm thinking, this is not as bad as these lefties want to make it. They want to make it look like this horrible racist thing so people support them, and they're just...
Well, what I
they
always
don't
say to
understand
that, what I always say to that is that any institution, anybody who has any cursory knowledge of history knows that any political institution can be corrupted
Of
by
course.
power or by
Yeah, commies will ignore
diversity.
it themselves. They'll go, oh, that's just capitalist propaganda. That isn't real. Or Holodomor never happened because of this. And they say it's all lies. And that they'll bitch about fascist dictatorships and how they got rid of communists. Yet they wouldn't mind having me shot under their government at all. It's just they're hypocrites, and it's like you need to stop bitching. I know some nationalists will bitch, and it's like we're very similar into a certain way. I understand. You want that's part of their theory. They're going to be authoritarians. They're going to be hypocrites. They're going to bitch about us. Yet they'll do the same thing. But their hypocrisy. I main thing I do it because I'm calling out Bolshevik hypocrisy, and it needs to be called out.
Well, I'm certainly with you on that, Delta.
Their contradictions towards fascism are absolutely insane, and it shows that they're just insane. I can know like a guy who went over the communism. He said it was the last place I'd look, and I'm thinking you're going. I'm viewing him like you're going nuts. Like you're going absolutely batshit crazy. Ethan can even attest to this because he's like, oh, this is wage slavery and a bunch of shit. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Who was saying what was wage slavery?
Oh, this guy, independent workman. It's not because I hate him or anything, but it's like, dude, I used to be in that movement. I used to tell him, oh, this was Christian, and I started looking. I'm like, no, this is horse shit. This doesn't fit any of my views on faith because it just does exactly the opposite.
Yeah, because you're a creationist, and doesn't that contradict the
yeah, they're like, we need to get rid of religion, and a lot of them are like this. And even though you have a couple saying, oh, this is what, like, the mass is this, and it's, but I'm like, still, how can you say that? So how can you try to think that how, I'm like, one thing, the faith is not political, so I don't get why you would say it's, that being a capitalist is very anti-Christian, yet the faith is not political at all.
Yeah, see, that goes back to what I was saying about the politicization of everything. Everything has to be political for these people, even when it manifestly isn't.
Like they'll say Jesus is a socialist. I'm like, really? Someone like Christ, someone like Jesus
before.
Christ, they're like, someone like Christ, he would condemn all ideologies for something. Even my own ideology.
I get these like fedora atheists saying that Jesus was a socialist, even though the thing is Jesus did not advocate for like any big social program.
Yeah, he didn't call for any of the Marxist society. It was all you could say it was all by voluntary. Like this was all by good. It's like this was all voluntary. It wasn't by force. You had to do these things.
I think he'd be best described as a voluntary anarchist because he
Or
wanted.
I probably would say something what a friend of mine used to be. It's the same guy who went to communism. I'd say that someone like Jesus, he'd be non-ideological. He would criticize, go after all ideologies and say they're all flawed in some way.
Well, I mean, he certainly had his own ideology, being a god and all, and having a vision for the universe, right?
But I mean by he wouldn't get caught. Non-ideologically, he wouldn't pretend to any of our man-made ideologies, you could say.
Yeah, that just, I don't know. Having that view seems to lend itself to just an utter lack of confidence in one's own ideas, I think.
Yeah.
Or it's like all those communist motherfuckers. Sounds I'm just like, oh, my allegiance is to God, nation, and family, and if you don't like that, well, fuck yourself.
Well, cultural Marxists hate religion, family, private property,
and the country, and they hate country too, if it's white.
Race.
And if they're Jews, they hate country and race. They hate white people. They secretly hate Jews, and they hate the Jewish nation and white nations.
Yup. So,
yeah, I wrote an article about this not too long ago. The whole
I've noticed that has somewhat of a charisma. I've kind of noticed. I figure I probably would make a pretty interesting head of a movement.
Who, you?
Yeah.
Now he's got delusions of grandeur.
Yep. So I'm gonna end this stream right here. So does anybody have their final thoughts?
Sorry for taking up everything.
Yes, we need to go back to. We need to mobilize our young men in our respective countries to go back to a warrior ethos and to have them defend what they value and to know what they value so that they can defend it.
Just look at me. There you go. I kind of set an example for young people.
Yeah, look to Delta.
Well, I think the whole warrior ethos idea sounds interesting, and yeah, so.
Danilo?
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say before we end this?
No, thanks for chatting with me, gentlemen.
Yep, and just so everyone can know, maybe tomorrow or maybe next week, we'll probably be bringing our favorite whiskey simpid, chain smoking reactionary, Davis Arini. He'll be joining us soon, and so stay tuned for that.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, it was great.
See ya.
See you guys.
See ya.